In this video, I will prepare a beef and rice bowl with a quick and flavorful teriyaki sauce. Hi, and welcome to the channel where I will be cooking good food as well as counting carbohydrates. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a type 1 diabetic. For those of us with type 1 diabetes, we can eat anything without restriction, so I will be preparing a wide variety of normal, tasty meals, and then showing you how to count the carbs to determine insulin requirements for the dish. Please stick around until the end, because after cooking the dish, we'll sit down and rock and bolus, and of course, count carbs. The ingredients for the teriyaki beef bowls are, for the beef bowls, broccoli, carrots, mushrooms, ground beef, and seasonings of onion powder, garlic powder, and pepper, cooked rice, and for the teriyaki sauce, brown sugar, cornstarch, ginger, garlic, soy sauce, and sesame oil, and for a garnish, roasted sesame seeds. So I filled a pot with 1 cup of water, and I brought it to a boil, and now I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to add 1 cup of rice, mix it in, and then let it set until it's ready. I'm going to chop up some matchstick carrots, and these are going to go into the ground beef. I'm going to chop up some mushrooms into small pieces, and I'm going to do that by cutting each one in half, and then I'm going to slice thinly and then spin it around and then go the other way. I'm slicing up the last mushroom. I'm using frozen broccoli, and these pieces seem a bit large to me, so I'm going to cut them into smaller pieces. I'm going to open a 1-pound package of ground beef. And I usually do this by cutting off both ends and then slicing it down the middle and then dropping it into the pan. After you have it in the pan, turn your heat on to medium-high until it starts to sizzle. Then you can turn it down a little bit. Now I'm going to chop the meat up a little bit. And when it starts to sizzle like that, you can turn your heat down to about a medium-high level. I'm going to add some seasonings to the cooking ground beef, and I'm going to add some onion powder. Doesn't matter the amount, it's whatever to taste. Garlic powder. Some pepper. I will not be adding salt. You don't need it. You won't miss it. I'm just going to stick that over there. When your meat has partially cooked like this, now you're going to start adding in the vegetables that you've chopped. I'm going to add the carrots, mushrooms, and broccoli. You're going to give it a good stir. When you've got everything mixed together, pop a lid on it. And you're going to cook until everything is soft and cook through. Take the lid off and stir this periodically just to make sure everything is absorbing the heat like it should. I'm going to begin making the teriyaki sauce. I'm going to add 1/2 cup of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, 1 tablespoon of garlic. I am using garlic from a jar, so we call it jarlic. 1 teaspoon of sesame oil. You don't need too much, it's potent stuff. And 1 teaspoon of minced ginger from a squeeze jar. I'm going to mix this all together. You're going to turn your heat on, bring it up to a boil. Stir continuously once it starts to thicken, and it's going to look sort of like this. If it becomes too thick too quickly, you can add a little bit of water to unthicken it. Roasting sesame seeds is very simple. I'm going to turn my pan on, and then I'm going to spread a thin layer of sesame seeds in my pan, just like that. And then you're going to wait just a few seconds for the pan to heat up, and then you're going to start stirring. You can stir with a spatula. You can just shake a little bit. When these do start to brown, they will brown very quickly. So be ready to turn your heat off when you see them, the desired level of brownness. And it's starting to brown. Place a scoop of rice in the bowl, add the beef and vegetable mixture, drizzle the teriyaki sauce on top, and garnish with some roasted sesame seeds. Before I begin the actual carb count, let me say that I am not a medical professional. I am just a human being who happens to wear her pancreas in her pocket. And I also happen to have years of living with type 1 diabetes. If you do have a medical question, please consult your diabetic care team. Let's count carbs for the teriyaki beef bowl. There will be some math involved, but don't worry, it's not that hard. This recipe made 4 servings. So if we begin with the beef bowl, the broccoli had 4 grams of carbohydrates per serving. The carrots, 2.5 grams. The mushrooms, 2 grams. The ground beef had 0. And the seasonings, onion powder, garlic powder, and pepper, had no grams of carbohydrates. The cooked rice had 38 grams of carbohydrates per 1/3 of a cup. And the teriyaki sauce had brown sugar, 7 grams, cornstarch, 2 grams, the ginger, 1 gram, garlic, 1 gram, and the soy sauce and sesame oil had no grams of carbohydrates. The sesame seeds had no grams of carbohydrates. You add up the column with all those numbers, and you arrive at a grand total of 57.5 grams of carbohydrate per bowl. Once you have your final carbohydrate count for your serving, you will need to divide this number by your carb ratio number. For instance, if I use my carbohydrate ratio of 1 to 15, 57.5 divided by 15 is equal to 3.8 units of insulin needed to keep my blood sugar within a normal range. Asian food, even though it is delicious, is notorious for raising blood sugar at a seemingly greater carb ratio than other foods. This is because rice is a high-density carbohydrate, and the sauces, which have simple carbs such as brown sugar, maple syrup, and honey, all add up the grams of carbohydrates in the dish. So the beauty of making your own sauce is that you can tweak carbs. For my sauce, I used only 2 tablespoons of brown sugar with no honey and no maple syrup. You will find that restaurant food will often increase the amount of sugars in their recipes to add glaze to the finished product. So be careful of rice consumed. My carb value was based on 1/3 cup. In restaurants, it is not uncommon to eat 2 cups of rice for a meal and not even realize how much you have eaten. So 2 cups of rice can easily add an extra 200 carbs to your plate. When ordering food, ask for rice and sauces on the side. This way, you can control the amount of carbs which you are consuming. Happy carb counting, and remember, my fellow type 1s, counting carbs so our pancreas doesn't have to, one meal at a time.